Welcome to today's lesson. I'm your coach, Isa Kbo, and I'm excited to take you through this lesson. Now, over the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about building momentum in your leadership, and we are going through this leadership momentum sprint. And today is day 14 of the sprint. We are building on something that we've been talking about in the last three sessions, and that's all about vision. When you think about vision from a foundational perspective, it's the ability to see the future from the present. It's being able to paint a very clear picture of how tomorrow is going to look like, how next year is going to look like, how 5 years is going to look like, then walking backwards and coming up with a plan on how you're going to make that a reality. As human beings, we get excited about the future. First off, it's because the future, it's a place we've never been. We all get excited about new things, but also it's a place we've never experienced failure. So we don't have a lot of baggage. When you think about the past, sometimes it comes with some good memories or happiness or joy, but it also comes with some sadness. Maybe you've gone through some rough times. So you have memories of the past, which might be good, might be bad. But also, when you look at the past, you get to evaluate what you've accomplished based on where you are at, whether your age or your career level, and you are likely to find several gaps in there. So the future is a place you've never been. Yes, we need to get excited about it, but also come up with a solid plan so we can walk towards that. Now, when it comes to what we're going to talk about today, it's about the messages that you send to your team every single day to reinforce the big vision that you have, to either strengthen it or enhance it or keep it on top of your team's mind. So, one of the things I know is that most leaders think vision lives in strategy decks, lives in kickoff meetings or annual plans. But in reality, vision lives somewhere much quieter. It lives in the messages your team hears every single week, because vision doesn't become real when it's announced, it becomes real when it becomes rhythmic. So today, we're going to focus on how vision actually takes root in your team through one simple, repeatable weekly message, whether it's going to be a memo or an email or a chat. So vision becomes real when it shows up consistently in the everyday communication that sets the tone, direction, and expectations for your team. Think about it. Your weekly email or your Slack message or your Teams update, your Monday meeting opener, or what you call here's what's happening this week message. These are not just updates, they are vision shaping moments. And yet, most weekly messages into the same traps. Either they are too long, they are too formal, they are too unclear, they are reactive, they are inconsistent, or sometimes overloaded with the details that create noise instead of clarity. And the result of this is that teams start the week busy but not aligned. They start the week active but not focused. They start the week moving forward but not together. And that's not a motivational problem, that's a communication problem. So that's really what we are going to talk about today. If you've been in my circle for a while, you know that I have a team and that I'm building, and we are growing, and we usually have our meetings every Monday and Friday. On Mondays, we meet at 10 o'clock Central Time to review the previous week, talk about the current week. Each person gets to report the results they got based on the commitments they made from the previous week. But again, we have a structure that we use, and actually, I have outlined that specific structure in my very first book that I wrote. I just revised the book here in 2025. And let me see if I have a picture of it. That's the book. It's called Now That I'm a Manager, What Do I Do Next? And there's a whole chapter on how to run effective meetings. And the reason I'm telling you this is because with the refinement of our meetings, it's become a little bit easier. So we usually have the meetings scheduled for an hour, and now we are able to do those meetings for 45 minutes, and nobody's getting rushed, by the way. We get to cover everything because we have that consistent rhythm. There are some messages that go out before the meeting. There are some things that have been predetermined. That means people need to be prepared. My assistant gets some of the stuff ready. Our operations director has a reporting that she does. And so basically, we have a very good rhythm. I have some responsibilities, they have some responsibilities. And then we meet on Friday to review the week and also get to tie some loose ends if there happens to be any before we go to the weekend. So every message that goes out there reinforces the big vision that we are Dynamo Methods. This is what we are all about. We work on this and this and that. These are the lanes for the business. This is our mission. These are our values. They are all embedded in those messages. And I'm not talking about you hammering people with a lot of information or always emphasizing on your core values. Obviously, you need to be living them. But if the message becomes too predictable, and what I mean is, if they know that you're going to pick one of the core values and kind of in a lame way try to go through it, they can see through you and basically pretend that they are with you when they are not. But the key thing is being able to send very life-giving messages, so to say. So one of the questions I like to ask, and I'm doing a better job now of doing that, is taking the first 2 to 5 minutes and asking each person, how do you feel right now? Basically, I'm asking, what kind of an energy are you bringing into this week? What's one win you experienced the previous week? And what was your biggest challenge? We don't get into the weeds of trying to figure out what caused it. I just make sure people can express how they are feeling within the first 5 minutes. And then after that, we can get into the discussions. And of course, if there's a major problem, then we can address it. So it all depends on how you like to communicate. Yes, I send messages through our chat and emails, but I'm more of a verbal person because I believe I can accomplish more that way. From my experience, every leader has at least one message they send over and over again. Like I said, it could be a Monday morning email, a weekly update, a recurring Slack post, or it could be a chat message, could be an update that you are trying to get from someone. It doesn't matter what it is, but almost every single leader I know has a message that they usually send every single week. And today, you're going to take one of those messages and rewrite it. So think about a message that you usually send or you're intending on sending to your team every single week. You're going to take that message and you're going to rewrite that message. And I have a worksheet for you just to make it very easy, and I'll show you here in a second. And the goal is not to add more information, but to create alignment. You're to rewrite that message using what you call human repeatable vision language. We talked about that in a previous session, that you need to stay away from what you call the corporate language. Find a human centered language that people can understand, not because they cannot understand the big words, but you don't want to waste their time, or at least get them to have to think. You want to make sure they can get the message very quickly and in a straightforward way so they can move forward. When you use a human centered language, your vision is likely to become a rhythm very, very quickly. This is what we call a weekly clarity touch point. The message you're going to rewrite is your weekly clarity touch point that your team can rely on. It is a signal that says, this is what matters, this is where we are going, this is how this week fits into the bigger picture. So let's get to the application. And like I said, your task today is simple. You're going to rewrite one weekly message, either make it shorter, make it clearer, make it human, or make it consistent with the direction you want your team to go. So let's go through the worksheet. Section number 1 is to choose your weekly message. So what recurring communication will you rewrite? Again, pick only one. Like I said, it could be an email, could be a chat message, just pick one. Then section number 2, you're going to write the original message as you normally deliver it. You don't have to rewrite it, but most likely there are some gaps in there. So write exactly the way you deliver that message. And then in section 3, you're going to rewrite using this formula. Number 1, the what matters this week. So start with that. Why does it matter? How, what winning looks like. Then you rewrite that message. So let me give you an example. Okay, so if I was to get together with my team, and I'm going to make this real. So we are in December, mid of December 2025, crossing over to 2026. Most of the leaders like you've set your goals and the strategies for 2026. And if you haven't, probably you need to do that. So in our case, we have several programs that we are going to launch. Most of them revolve around the books that I'm writing. I have mentioned in our previous sessions that I have a new book coming out in February of 2026, and it's called The Multiplier Leader. And it's more for senior leaders, CEOs, C-suite executives. It is all about becoming and modifying and amplifying your identity so you can leave a legacy behind. So let's say I was to send a message next week on Monday to focus on how we are going to launch that book, how we are going to amplify the message. So there are several things that need to go into place. But if I was to send a message, I'll say, hey, team, thank you for being a part of the team. This week, our main focus is coming up with a plan for the Multiplier Leader launch. This is important because this message is going to make a big difference, because our goal is to either sell this many books or get books in the hands of this many people. So I got to have a reason, a specific reason why. And how we are going to do it, when we meet, we are going to come up with a 90-day plan or a 45-day plan on how we are going to do that launch. And then I'm going to just send it out. And then section number 4, when will you use it? So identify the meeting, email, or update where this new version is going to be used. If you apply something, it becomes easy, and then you apply over. When you use it over and over again, it becomes second nature. And obviously, you're going to refine it as you use it. So there's no point of crafting that message and then not using it or waiting for too long before you use it. You need to apply immediately. It might be choppy, but trust me, it's going to help you big time. So that's the worksheet. And my encouragement again, just go ahead and use it and craft that message. Now, some of you might be wondering why we've spent 3 lessons now talking about vision and specifically clarifying your message. The reason being, communication is the leadership language. If you can communicate very well, whether verbally or through written messages, then you are likely to move your vision forward. You are likely to hit your goals very quickly without stressing out your people. I shared in a previous lesson that my goal for 2026, and I shared that with my team, is that we want to work less and produce more volume in terms of the work we do. Basically, help more people, train more people, help more business owners. I speak more, but by working less. And what I mean is just speaking the vital few, having the main things that really we wanna focus on. So I'll tell you a quick story. I have in my new book, The Multiplier Leader, that's coming out in February, and it's about Michelangelo when he was sculpting David. And obviously, when he was done, it was really a great statue. People were congratulating him and saying, you did a great job sculpting David. And what he said is that I saw an angel inside the stone. I saw an angel inside the marble. And I did not sculpt David. What I did, I took out everything that was not David. When you think about all the things you did in 2025, the meetings, the trainings that you did, the leadership that you got involved in, the conferences that you went to, the seminars that you went to, the meetings that you held with either your senior leaders, your peers, or your employees, when you look at all those, the question is, which ones were the most valuable? And going to 2026, would you do it again with the same people? And if the answer is no, then you need to chop off some of those, not because you are being mean or selfish, but because you know what you need and what you're going to focus on in 2026. So when you think about leadership, is not always about addition. Sometimes it's about subtraction. So as you go into 2026, can you do less and get more volume? Can you have less meetings and have better productivity? Can you work with the same number of employees and potentially produce more? And it's possible, because if you've been training them and coaching them, most likely they are going to be more productive. So when your weekly message becomes simple and aligned, your entire week becomes simpler and aligned. That's a fact. That means you're going to be less stressed out. You'll be able to produce more. You don't have to work after hours or even take work home, because again, when everyone is aligned, you're moving towards the same direction. And trust me, as someone who has been leading for a long time, I know you almost have to over communicate. Sometimes you say something and you realize it's not clear. You really need to master this aspect of communication, and specifically your weekly meeting. It needs to be simple and aligned. So as we close this lesson, I recommend you rewrite the message today. Don't procrastinate. Use it this week. And as you do, remember this: leadership is not about having the perfect words, it's about creating clarity people can trust. Your team doesn't need louder communication, they need steadier communication. They need to hear your voice with consistency, with confidence and intention. When you show up each week with clear direction, you're not just setting an agenda, you are setting belief. You are reminding your team that someone is thinking ahead, that the path is clear, and that their work matters. And this is how you grow into the leader your team deserves, not through pressure, but through presence, not through complexity, but through clarity. My promise is that I'll be here with you as you build this rhythm, one message at a time, one week at a time, one stronger version of yourself at a time. Keep growing, keep building, keep leading, and I'll see you in the next lesson.